So we were talking about some of the reasons that entrepreneurs fail. I got interrupted by my alarm clock there, which I said I don't really use an alarm clock, but I have one to let me know what time in the morning it is, and it's 8 o'clock now. I'm already out walking around, so clearly I don't need it to wake up in the morning. Um, but I like to get back to my desk by 9 o'clock, so I have plenty of time. Anyways, what I'm saying about entrepreneurs is that a lot of them start at different points in their lives. Some start early when they kind of have nothing to lose and can live cheaply and don't have big car payments or mortgages. Others start later when they're fed up with the status quo and just want to move ahead with a new scenario, a new paradigm for their lives. Others start later in life when their kids are grown, they have some extra money, they can afford to take a risk. So you have to figure out where you are in the entrepreneurial life cycle, let's say, and then figure out how you're doing in that life cycle. Because whether you're young or middle or older aged, it depends what your mindset is like. That's what's going to help you get success or what may help you fail. And while we don't want anybody to fail, I have to admit that I've started businesses before and they failed. And I got scared and I turned away and I went back to the status quo and I went back to the 9 to 5 and I found that high paying job that I'd had before, and I wasn't really very happy about that because that wasn't what I'd started out wanting to do. It'd never been my intention to fail. But it wasn't like I only worked at my business for a couple of months or weeks or something. I put a good long time into it. But then I realized that there were too many factors that were beyond my control in that particular business. Like, for example, I had one business that relied on international travel. That was the source of the demand for my product. And it happened to be, I'd been open for about a year before 9/11 hit. And then our borders just shut down. And my business dried up. And I didn't have, I had another job then because I was doing this part-time. So I just stuck with my regular job that I was doing. But I didn't have any alternate plan or any multiple source of entrepreneurial income to keep me going while I looked for, a new additional business line or something. And then in another example, I had a business that was a brick and mortar business that relied on the building that I was in. I spent a year building up my brand and I had quite a good demand and I had income and cash flow that was beyond what I would have ever imagined. So I did well creating the business. But then the legs got kicked out from under me when my building was sold and my new landlord failed to honor my lease and wanted the building for himself. So he set about doing everything he could to get me kicked out, including filing a lawsuit against me and alleging all kinds of crap that I'd never even done. But until you can get into court and defend yourself, it's an allegation that hangs over your head and you can't sell your business because you need to sell the business with the lease, and the lease has no value anymore because the landlord won't honor it. So, stuff like that is reasons why people fail that aren't even kind of within their control. I can't control what my landlord does. And while I felt I was in the right, meaning I had the right to occupy my building, I had to fight for that, and it costs thousands, hundreds maybe of thousands of dollars to go through a civil lawsuit, and it takes many, many years to do that. And, that wasn't something that I was really counting on in my first year of business. So those are things that can happen to businesses, and people who are entrepreneurs can get very discouraged after that happens, because clearly you've done what you need to do to create success and make the business viable in the first place. But there are other people who don't have those kinds of barriers or troubles, and they just either have no confidence that they can do it, or they have no discipline to actually put the time in and do what they need to do the money-making activities that need to occur. They'll get lost in time-wasting things and education and do everything but the money-making activities that make the cash register ring. So just wanting to be an entrepreneur is not enough. Self-discipline is important, but belief in yourself is probably the first and foremost thing that you have to have. If you've had some successes before, even though some of mine failed in the end, they were successful before they failed. So that gives me an internal sense of ability and capability that I can start and create a successful business. What I have learned, however, is that I want the business to be within my control. And that's why I've selected an internet-based business. It provides me a lot of control, very little reliance on anyone else. I mean, I need systems to be operational because my business relies on the internet. So if the internet crashed down and disappeared, well, maybe my business would too. And I just have to make do with that, figure out what's next in that scenario, do something else. But I don't know how that's any safer than going to work every day at a job that you don't own, where you could be laid off or fired or downsized or made redundant, or your division could be locked away in nowhere land. You could be transferred to a place you don't want to live. I mean, those are incredible risks as well. So when you weigh it all up together, I don't really know that being an entrepreneur is any more risky than working for someone else. So those are my thoughts on becoming an entrepreneur, some of the risks and some of the obstacles that you have to overcome. But let's take a few minutes and just talk about some of the rewards. Well, most certainly you work for yourself. You get to decide when you're finished walking, you can start work. Or if you want to, you can work while you're on your walk. Check your emails, send a text, place an order, whatever. It's your own day. And for me anyway, that freedom is worth a lot. Now, I'm older, so I had a standard of living that I wanted to maintain, at least in some regards. I didn't want to live in my van while I started my business or something. But I also didn't need to have the same level of cash flow that I had before, because most of that was just to support a lot of traveling around for business. A lot of it went to the government for taxes. A lot of it went to support 2 households, because I had one where I lived and one where I worked, which was usually out of state. Because in order to make the big money that I was making, I had to travel all over the country to see different clients. And that alone can be very expensive, not to mention exhausting. So anyway, my point is that there's risks and rewards to every decision that you make in your life. For me, freedom was very important. For me, running my own company is really cool. And I have personally gathered enough success to realize that I can do it. And I made a decision to pick a business this time around that doesn't have a big leg under it that's within someone else's control that they could just yank out from under me. Could I have foreseen any of this? Did I know the government was going to close our borders? Did I know 9/11 was going to happen? No, those are the two reasons why one of my businesses failed earlier. And then in the other case, did I know that my new landlord, was going to not honor my lease and try to kick me and all the other tenants out of the building so he could use it? No, no one can know everything. No one can plan for every contingency. But you can't do that in a regular 9-to-5 job anyway. So, you know, people get laid off and downsized and moved and demoted and promoted. And a lot of times it's not up to you then either. So would you rather take the risk and be on your own terms 365 days of the year and have the same risks or not? So you got to buy your own benefits. You know, you have to make your own discipline. You have to create your own office. You have to set your own priorities. You have to buy your own pencils. You know, there's a lot to being your own boss and running your own company. But I'll be honest with you, I don't really need that many pencils. It doesn't really cost me that much to run my business. I work from home. I have an internet connection every month. I pay a monthly fee to subscribe to the services that I need to run my business. And after that, I set it up, I put the time in, and then my business kind of works for me when I'm sleeping, because it's open 24/7 all the way around the world. And my job is just to figure out who my market is, find my market, figure out how to market to those people, and how to get them to come to see what it is that I'm doing, you know, and see if they want anything of what I'm offering. That's my job. So if I've reached you, maybe you want to know more. So check it out. Stay with me. Till next time, this is Lily. Be a happy entrepreneur. Own your own life. Make your own decisions. Take your own risks. And reap your own rewards. Ciao for now.